Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. It's already been a very busy morning here this morning because we had an opportunity right on the fly to talk to Dr. Temple Grandin this morning. And we're going to be sharing that interview with you a little bit later in the second hour of the show today. So really so exciting to be able to talk to her. We thank her so much for making the time today. And I mentioned on Thursday that it might be today. We didn't know, and we didn't know until this morning, and she had some time, so we did it, and it's recorded, and we'll show it later on. All right. Having said that, a lot of stuff going on this week. You see that I still have the can written on my hand because we can. Coverage for Autism Now. Tomorrow is the big day. We're asking all of you to wear can somewhere on your person. It can be written on your hand. It can be written on the back of your hand, on your wrist, on your arm. You can put it on your face. You can wear it on a hat. You can wear it on a shirt. But have the words can somewhere on your person tomorrow. Take a picture of it and send it to us. What we're trying to do is trying to raise some awareness and stand in solidarity with those families who, for whatever reason, and there are lots of varied reasons out there for why they don't have coverage yet. Somebody wrote in this morning and said, we have self-funded insurance here in California. Is there any hope? There is always hope because we can get coverage for autism now, but we have to be together on this and have our voices be heard, right? So we want you to take pictures. We want to send those to our lawmakers here in California and around the country to say, look, this is affecting people. Whether you're somebody who has insurance, but you cannot afford the copay or the deductible, whether you're somebody who, because of recent changes, you lost your coverage for ABA. For those of you in the state of California who had Medi-Cal, you had coverage and then you lost it. And we really want to get to the point where you have it back. We know that that's important for you. For those of you who have the self-insured plans that are covered under ERISA, which means they're federally legislated and not by state, all of these different circumstances, and those of you who do not yet have insurance reform in your state. We're going to be talking about that a little bit more today, but we want you to get your can on for tomorrow, right? And then it's not enough to do it, right? You have to do it and take a picture and send it to us so that we can then further that to people and say, hey, people are paying attention. And we have lots of different partners who are helping us with this as well, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the show, but just wanted to plug the can there. All right, we are going to be with you live for the next 2 hours talking about autism from a 360-degree perspective. And we know, and I hope that you guys know by now, that the show is only as good as when you guys participate, right? That's really the key to things. So Emily's going to show you some of the different ways that you can participate with us here, some of the different ways you can be watching the show, some of the ways that you can be talking with the people that we have on our show. So I'll remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, you will see that there are many things to do there, including check out our blog. We're still featuring that free downloadable meditation for parents who are overwhelmed. Pick me. But it helps to be able to breathe and get through the day. It's very short. I believe it's 10 minutes, maybe 11 minutes, and can help to center you. You can listen to it at night and hopefully drift off to sleep, listen to it in the morning, whatever you want to do. It's free. And we are recording this week the one for children. So very excited about that. But in any case, on that homepage too, you can also see there's a computer screen there. If you click on the triangle on the computer screen, you could be watching the live show with us, or you can be watching the most recently recorded live show, because many of you I know are not available during the hours that we're live. That's okay, because we want you all to interact, whether you're watching this at 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific time or you're watching it at 2 a.m. in Zimbabwe. It really is okay either way, because to the side there you see those interactive boxes, one that says Shannon is answering right now, and then one below it, your question. Put your cursor in that one and start typing. When you hit enter, it automatically will make its way. It takes about a minute and a half to get here onto my screen so that I can be talking with you in almost real time, and then I can ask our experts your questions. It's kind of a good deal, right? It's free. You do not have to log in. There's no lengthy process where people are asking for your credit card. We don't know who you are, and we don't know if you have a credit card, and we're not really interested in finding that out. That's your business, right? Who says that, right? But here's the little asterisk asterisk at the end of that sentence. If there's something that you want from us, you want us to get back to you personally, then you would want to consider putting in your transmission some way for us to get back in touch with you, because otherwise we have no way of finding you or of knowing who you are. That's only if you want us to get back to you personally. Otherwise, we answer your questions here on the show, and you have an opportunity to watch them at your leisure. How's that? Now, at the start of the show, I always remind you guys that while I sit here and I talk to many experts in the field of autism, I am not one of them. I am not an expert in autism, as will be evidenced by everything that happens here today. I'm a parent, and I'm a former teacher. I always like to add that too. I love the education process. I love learning and growing. And when my child was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5, there was an education that I hadn't planned on, right? Whole new world to step into. And I'm still learning. My son is 10, about to be 11 this summer, and I've got a long way to go until I really, and every time I think I might just have a handle, my son learns and grows, or I meet somebody else on the spectrum, and I get open to a whole other world of things that I don't know about. I'm very clear about that, and I try to be humble about that, because no one should mistake me for an autism expert. But having said that, I really am passionate about learning, and I hope that you guys are too, because we have a lot to learn and a lot to grow as we make our way through this journey, this autism spectrum journey, right? All right, we like to start every morning with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. And we do this because when you step into this world of unknowns, it comes with a whole bunch of jargon, like a big bucket, a trough, if you will, full of jargon. And it can really sink your battleship if you don't know what people are talking about. But if you try to take it all on at once, that can be overwhelming too. So we try to take one word, one phrase, one acronym at the start of the show. I think of it as our morning warm-up. We try to make a little bit of fun of it because we give you an actual definition, and sometimes that's full of more jargon, right? And then we give you a working definition that hopefully will give you an entree into understanding what this term is talking about without stretching your head too far out of shape, you know? All right, so today's term, it's a goodie, an oldie but a goodie, expressive language. I don't know about you, and again, former teacher, but I taught the upper grades and I taught college. So learning about expressive and receptive language, I kept confusing them. It was the hardest thing for me. Probably took me 6 months into the autism journey before I began to understand what in the heck they were talking about. We don't want you to have to wait that long, because they're actually kind of easy once you understand what they are, what the difference between them is. Okay, so our actual definition for expressive language: the production of language, including speech, signing, and/or gesture for communication. Okay. Well, you know what's really important about this is that it includes that when you're expressing yourself with language, when we're using language, it isn't always just verbal. And that's a really important point for us to know on both sides of it, because when our children, sometimes we're all hot and heavy as parents to get our children to be speaking, but there are so many other things like gesturing and being able to sign that are important in all of our worlds, not just for a child on the autism spectrum. Perfect example, my son didn't have language for the longest time, but then began to use utterances purposefully, but he was still behind in gesturing. Okay, so we want to make sure that we include all of these things. But our working definition for expressive language that helps us to get a little bit more specific about this is the child's ability to communicate their needs. Okay, when I first started learning about autism, we all hear about the term nonverbal. Unfortunately, it's a little bit of an issue in our community that a lot of us use it on a regular basis in a different way than the experts use nonverbal, right? Because when an expert is talking about the child being nonverbal, they're including that the child doesn't communicate at all with sign language, gesture, at all. That's truly a nonverbal child. What we see are there are a lot of non-vocal children in our community that have other ways of communicating. Sometimes they gesture, sometimes they sign, sometimes they're using adaptive technology. If we have a child who is truly nonverbal, we want to get them to engage in verbal behavior, whether that is utterances or it is signing using that assistive technology, because what we want, and this is so important to me that we all understand this, is that we want to up the child's ability to communicate. Now, absolutely, I don't think there's a parent who's out there who's watching who doesn't want their child to be able to speak. I think that that's just one of those things that it's inherent in all of us, that we want that communication, that particular kind of communication. And we know that that's going to be available for our kids on the autism spectrum in higher numbers than ever before. Recently, I heard somebody say 70% of our children will be vocal, and that's amazing number. There's still a group of our children, though, who will grow to be adults and will not have vocal communication. We need to be very careful that 100% of our kids have functional communication skills, that they're able to convey their needs to us. That's expressive language. So that can be requesting things with a vocal man, saying cookie when you want a cookie, or it can be pointing to it, it can be signing, but we have to up that communication. Just remember, with expressive language, they're expressing themselves. It's language that goes this way. It's going out from them. I want a cookie, which can, I want to say that that this was the sign for cookie. I don't really remember. But being able to express what your needs are, super duper important. It's only one half of the language component, though, because then there's receptive, and we will do that jargon term on Thursday. You won't want to miss it. Okay, very important though, expressive language. We always have a question of the day for you to start the day off. And our question today is, how have you been denied coverage for autism? All part and parcel with the can here. We're collecting stories from all of you. How have you been denied? For some of you, you have insurance and you are in a state where there's insurance reform, and we've heard from some of you that you go to do it with a provider and that there's this big holdup. We've got a great story for you here in California that's new, that we'll do in the news a little bit later on. But right now, I want to know from you guys on our Facebook or on our Twitter, how have you been denied coverage for autism? These stories become very important because, first of all, as a community, we need to close ranks and give information to other members of the community. So you putting it out there and say, look, this is what happened to me, you have no idea how many other parents that will help down the road, so that when it happens to them, that they go, okay, this is something they do, this is how I get through this hoop, right? And we also are going to be forwarding some of your responses to our legislators to let them know this is what's happening. A lot of people have thought for a while now, oh, well, we have 35 states with autism coverage and we have the Affordable Care Act, so we must be done with that. And we're nowhere near done. We have a lot of work to do. So let your voice be heard. Help us to help everyone else and you in figuring out how we get coverage for autism now. We always have a topic for the day and for the week. And if you couldn't guess already, our topic this entire week is can. We can do this. We can get coverage for autism now. Tomorrow is our big day where we're asking all of you to participate with us and write can somewhere on your person, take a picture of it, send it to us so that we can help to have our voices heard all together. There are lots of different places where our autism community doesn't agree. One of the things that we talked about with Temple Grandin this morning that we're going to play for you in the next hour. But I think that this is an area where we can all agree that insurance should be covering autism and that it should be a level playing field. We can't just say, well, it's going to cover this group of people. We don't do that with anything else. So let's all get together and write can someplace, take a picture, send it to us. All right, big show today. So very excited. For the first time, we have with us Joanne Lara, and she's going to be talking with us about autism movement therapy. community. Very excited to hear from her. We are going to be talking about autism insurance today and all of the different manifestations. I will tell you too that a week from today, we're going to have Shelley Hendricks with us, an amazing expert in the field of autism insurance, the head of the grassroots movement for Autism Speaks that has been behind getting all of these states that have had insurance reform. We're going to be talking with her about the ERISA federal laws and about all the people who are still falling between the cracks. That will be a week from today, but we are going to do a little primer today talking about autism insurance. And then in the second hour today, as I mentioned earlier, we had a rare opportunity this morning to speak with Temple Grandin, Dr. Temple Grandin, and we recorded that for you. It just happened a few minutes ago, and we're going to be playing that in the second hour today. So big show, and I specifically asked a lot of the questions that you guys have been writing in, and asked about how segmented this autism community is and her thoughts on it. It was really powerful. I can't wait for you guys to see it. So all of this and ever so much more after these messages. Stick with us.
Hi, I'm Ryan with Autism Research Group. We study ways to improve the lives of kids with autism. One of those ways is teaching safety skills, such as what to do if they get lost. We hit the streets to find out if anybody knows the correct answer on how to teach a kid what to do if they get lost. You're teaching a child
what to do if they get lost.
Yeah, you're trying to make them independent so they have the skills.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, give them a compass. Code name's good idea. Centurion.
We always have this whistle.
Oh, I'd also tell the kid, don't get scared. You're gonna be all right, man. This is just the world. This is planet Earth. You're at home here. As long as you're on planet Earth, you're at home.
As long as you're on planet Earth, you're home. This guy's a genius. With that flawless logic, he just solved our homeless problem. And as for the unique sounding whistle, although very cool, it'll probably only work if you're in close proximity. And a compass?
I have her call me.
Yeah, she doesn't have a phone. Parents are like, you're too young, you don't need a phone.
Establish some sort of like meeting place.
What if they can't find a meeting place? Because sometimes the kids get nervous when they get lost.
Yeah.
So like a backup plan,
Well,
plan B.
yeah, I don't know. No, not really.
Let them go and find a new kid. Or something.
Yeah, I got a different one. Yeah.
There's not much you can do.
There is stuff you can do.
Like,
That's right, there is stuff you can do. In 2012, myself, along with my colleagues, Dr. Jonathan Tarbox and Dr. Adele Nadowski, published a study in the Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis on teaching kids what to do when they get lost. The study demonstrated how 3 simple things, rules, role-playing, and praise, were effective in establishing these help-seeking behaviors. The benefit of this method is it doesn't require the child to have a cell phone or to have to locate a meeting place, which might be difficult if they're in a place like Disneyland. So once again, our method included rules, role-playing, and praise. Let's head back outside and learn about some of these rules.
They should yell out loud. Can't find my mom, help me.
Maybe yell out and scream for help.
All right, scream really loud,
Correct.
and if that doesn't work, then,
I don't know.
well, they could seek help from someone.
Find an adult.
Go to a vendor, and say I'm lost.
Find an adult, like a police officer or a fireman or an employee in the store, and tell them, and maybe they can help you contact your parent. It really is that simple. You don't need to get your kid a cell phone. You don't need to establish a meeting place that they might not be able to find when they're lost and panicking. And you definitely don't need to give them a compass. All your kid has to do is 3 things. First, yell mom or dad real loud. 2, if that doesn't work, find an employee. And then 3rd, tell the employee they're lost. If they can't locate an employee, then tell them to find a mother with children, because that's probably the safest person to approach. I'm not saying that most men are predators, but most predators are men. That is a fact. I've read it in a fortune cookie. All right, so you've gone over the rules with your kid, and you've quizzed them, and they're able to tell you the correct responses so they understand the rules. But is that enough? How do you know they're gonna perform correctly in a real world setting? You need to get out there and find out if they can actually do it. So you'd go over the rules and tell them, like, do this, do that, but how would you know if they actually knew what to do? If you wanted to shoot a basketball, and I just told you, oh, when you shoot a basketball, do this, this, and this.
I never practiced.
You never practiced, yeah, so it doesn't matter how many times we go over the rules or how well you can repeat them back to me. It's not going to change until you get on the court and practice.
Maybe do like a little skit with them
Like a
Kinda
role play?
Role play, yeah.
Your child, you're lost in the toy aisle.
Okay.
What do you do? I'm an attendant, walking around.
I'm lost. I don't know where my mom is.
And then once you practice, you just like praise them, give them feedback, like, good job, you did it.
Reinforcing it.
Yes, this woman wins the prize for best comment. She pointed out the most important part of learning, reinforcement. Now, in our study, we used praise, but for your kid, you might have to use something else. You might have to buy them a treat, a toy, take them to their favorite restaurant where they can eat unhealthy food, and run around and climb through plastic tunnels that have the unmistakable scent of urine, and then play games spending $20 to get a plastic little spider ring that they will eventually lose in the ball pit. The point is, you need to reward your child for correctly demonstrating what you've been teaching them.
Okay, I'm gonna call her. Hello, your child. Ryan Ouch is missing. There you go.
Woohoo!
Yay!
So you tested it out
I'll
in the
try.
store to make sure I knew it. I had the rules,
Yes.
we role played it, and you made sure I knew it, and then like you said, good job, and all that. Now we're good to go.
We're good to go.
All right,
Done?
high five right there.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Give your child the rules, get out there and practice, and reward your child for responding correctly. For more information, please visit us online at autismresearchgroup.org. I'm Ryan Bergstrom. Thanks for watching. Yes, ding, no. Yes, this woman wins the first. Yes, this woman. Yes, this woman wins the best. Yes, this woman wins the first place. Yes, this woman wins. Why can't I say woman? Yes, this woman wins. What's the line? Yes!
This one, okay.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are so thrilled. For the first time, we're having Joanne Lara with us.
It's lovely.
And you are an amazing person to talk about autism movement therapy. So first of all, tell our viewers what that is.
Well, you know, Shannon, I was in the classroom for 10 years, and I early on started using music with I was in the public school classroom, moderate to severe, special day class, students with autism, and severe. And my principal, my AP came in one day and she said, well, you know, you're responsible for teaching these children to read. And I looked and I was like, okay. How am I going to do that? And what I started doing was, through movement and music, I found that the kids, we were able to access different areas of their brain, because the music, as Temple Grandin tells us, is accessed in a different circuit of the brain. So what happened was daily music, and I don't mean hip hop with a lot of lyrics, I'm talking about music, classical music. Asian music is wonderful because it's you know, it doesn't have a real tempo and it flows. Anything that's going to stimulate that corpus callosum to actually activate the neurological transmission of information in the brain. And I played music all the time if they were working on task. If I was delivering a direct instruction, I didn't, you know, but then I'd put the music back up, and then we'd do yoga and we'd do dance. And what I got was yoga, Miss Laura. It's like, okay, bingo, I'm onto something here. And what we did was we'd clear all the beanbag chairs, we'd move the chairs around, and we'd start dancing, you know. And I said, I vowed when I'm no longer in the classroom, I'm going to create a movement and music program for these kids, because I had kids that came to me who were stimming on the floor at lights. Nonverbal, you were just talking about expressive language, that who, you know, they could, you know, we don't want to say nonverbal if we get some language, as you know. But for all intents and purposes, this young man was not speaking at all. He left my classroom 2 years later, working on a computer. There was a computer for every student in my classroom. And it was programmed for their level of language arts and math. Computers, best thing since sliced bread, along with those iPads, with the apps. Yes. Yes, computers, yes, yes. Don't take it away. Use it as a reinforcement if you need to, but don't take it away. many of our parents will take away computers
Yes.
and take away iPads. No, use that as a positive reinforcement. If you do this, then you get that.
Yeah.
And then they get the iPad back. Now, if it's a child that's communicating all the time with an iPad, then you want to, look at that treatment differently for an ABA, treatment. But anyway, this particular individual was stimming on the floor. 2 years later, left working on a computer, assisting in a general ed classroom, because I am an inclusionist. I come from Cal State Northridge, University Northridge. We're all about inclusion. Our kids belong with our other neurotypical students in all arenas, and talking.
Yeah.
Will you be going to middle school with us, Miss Lara? No, but your mother has my number. You have my telephone number. You can call me. We are going to miss you. This was a student on his back stimming on the lights.
Wow.
And I attribute that to a very language-based program in the classroom. Everything was labeled. Everything was about, this is a chair, this is a woman, this is, these are eyes. Everything was language-based, but that movement and music that allowed the brain to access areas where typically the brain would be dormant.
Fascinating.
And that's how autism movement therapy was developed.
Absolutely
We're all
fascinating.
over the world. We have about 250 certified autism movement therapists across the country. We're in India, we're in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, we're in Portugal, Great Britain, Wales, Canada, and all over this country.
In fact,
and we license.
Yeah, in fact, I was just going to say, you have some workshops coming up so that you can certify people. Tell us about those.
We have 3 a year here in Los Angeles, and the next one is actually this weekend in Winter Garden, Florida. And you can still go. It's on my website, autismmovementtherapy.org, and then it has a list of all the certification workshops, including my licensees, because I want everyone to have access wherever you are. If you can't come to Los Angeles, you may be able to go to Denver.
Okay.
If you can't come to Los Angeles or Denver, you may be able to go to Herkimer, New York, which is one of my biggest licensors at ARC, an area resource center.
I love Herkimer, New York.
It's a little tiny. But then we also have one in June 21st and 22nd here in Los Angeles. We have another one at the 92nd Street Y in New York City in July 19th and 20th. And we have October 25th and 26th here in Los Angeles again.
And we should say that for people who are watching, there's a lot of moms that are out there watching who are looking for a career in autism to make things better.
That's right.
And they might be thinking, but I'm not a dancer.
That's right.
And I don't have any movement training. Tell them who would be the right person to do this.
You know what, Shannon? We have administrators, we have teachers, we have parents. We have individuals on the autism spectrum who are certified now, who are actually opening up movement and music programs in their communities, because that has been a big push for me. And Autism Speaks gave me a grant last year, and we certified 10 individuals on the spectrum.
Nice.
One, because I want self-determination and independence, and who doesn't love to put up a plaque and say, I'm certified in this?
Right.
So we do that. It's open for everybody. You don't have to be, as I say, an American ballet theater dancer. Many people will call me, and they say, I'm not a dancer, I'm not trained, I don't have a degree in dance. No, it's not about that. That doesn't matter. What we want is if you have the intention and you realize that movement and music are a key to progress for our kids with autism, call me, sign up, come to the certification workshops. And I think Emily's going to show us a picture on the screen of one of this. This is one, I think this was in March of this year, certification. We generally get about 12 to 15 individuals, which is great. It's a 10-hour certification, 5 hours a day, Saturday and Sunday, and everybody leaves just, happy and friends and making connections and going home and putting up a movement and music program in the community.
And where can they get a hold of you to sign up for these workshops?
AutismMovementTherapy.org is the website. Joe Lara at roadrunner.com. They can email me.
Okay.
Or they can call me.
Go to the website. Go to the website. So now you do so many different things. You're a columnist for Autism Asperger Digest, but you also have been working on a documentary called Generation A, Portraits of Autism and the Arts, involved with Temple Grandin and Stephen Shore. And I understand that we have a clip that we're going to show. So let's take a look at that, and we'll be right back with more. Stick with us.
On your dot, please, Shoshana. Let's go. 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Autism itself comes from the Greek word auto, meaning one, which describes the characteristic of our children is being unto oneself. The 3 criteria for autism are speech and language impairment, a social skills impairment, and a behavioral issue of some kind.
Movement in music requires both sides of the brain to come to attention. In music and dance, the entire brain is responding to the visual information, to the audio information, and then to the gross motor processing.
To explain what's happening when we see an increase of verbal interaction when people move, we have to take a look at the theory of Dr. Arnold Miller. One of his premises is poor body-to-environmental relations. People with autism often don't know where the body ends and where the environment begins. So we may take for granted we know where the back of a chair is when we're sitting in it. But many people with autism may not know where the back of that chair is. And this ability to know where one's body is in space, how much force to use to accomplish a task, something in the neurology of people with autism tends to muddle that. Movement helps sort that out.
Wow, really amazing, Joanne. So inspirational to see. And we were just talking during the break about how, first of all, it's so important for our kids to move anyway. We were talking with Dr. Grandin before, and we have a quote from Temple Grandin about your program. She said, programs like Joanne's Autism Movement Therapy offer opportunities for our kids to develop the necessary and fundamental skills that benefit all our kids. And she further went on to say, art saved my life. Pretty incredible endorsement from Dr. Grandin. And when so art, having that expression, but also having the movement component of it, because so many of our kids are not out in the world. And as Dr. Grandin was saying when we interviewed her this morning, a lot of our kids want to go and sit and play a video game and do nothing, and that's their experience of the world. So many beneficial things just off the top. Having a place where they can go, where people are trained and understand what they need to do, getting them moving, giving them a way to express themselves. But you were mentioning that there is another benefit to it, that with that movement, other stuff bubbles up in the form of language.
Well, exactly, and interestingly enough, I didn't know that. I knew my kids were reading, I knew they were accessing computers, I knew that they were beginning to talk, but I didn't know, I wasn't attributing it specifically to the movement and the music in the classroom. I developed the program in 2007, and I started, because I'm a moderate to severe credentialed educator, moderate to severe families bring their children to me, you know, and that's the way it should be, because I understand kids with severe disabilities, and I've worked for years with them. What I started seeing was, early on, I was like, wow, these kids are talking, you know, but I mean, really, like, talking, they're getting the pragmatics and the actual speech, because speech is processed in 2 areas of our brain, the Broca's and the Wernicke's, and it lives predominantly on the left side of the brain. So if you look at the brain and you have the corpus callosum, which is the bridge between the 2 hemispheres, the left and right, and you have a criteria of autism, you already have a deficit in the left side of your brain, because speech and language is a criteria for autism. And if you don't have it, you don't have autism. You must have a deficit, lesser or greater degree, in the speech and language area. So what I kept seeing was that our kids are really one-sided. They're working from only one hemisphere of their brain. And gross motor lives at the back in the cerebellum. And it's a process with the visual processing and the audio processing and the imitation, a very strong ABA component. But that speech and language is 2 areas on the left side of the brain. Like I said, the Broca's at the front and the Wernicke's in the back. And the Broca's is actual articulation of speaking, you know, making sounds with your mouth. The Wernicke's is pragmatics, or ideas of language. You were talking about expressive language and being able to get your needs and your wants known. And many times our kids will, the semantics is not correct. You know, the verb is not in the right place, or the noun.
Then that's my kid.
Okay.
We call it Yoda speak because
Yeah.
he'll flip things.
Yeah. That's the Wernicke's. That's the
Interesting.
pragmatics area of the brain, which you can work with movement and music. You bring into my class.
I will.
Come to my class. We have a lot of boys too.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, we have a lot of boys too. You know, and we have a lot of gals that come that are 12 and 13 years old, and the whole social skills piece.
I mean,
imagine. Willow comes in and she says, you know, is Shoshana here? And you go, wow, they're thinking about the class prior. Hello, that involves higher level thinking skills, deductive reasoning, inductive reasoning. We are raising the level of what the brain is doing. And as Temple calls it, problem solving. We're taking out the problem solving, you know. We're taking out the problem solving, which is why she says she doesn't want these kids just on the computer all the time, because they're not having access to problem solving, and problem solving stimulates the higher level thinking skills in the brain.
Yeah.
So all of it back to the left side of the brain. What I saw was these children were beginning to not only just make sounds, but now have a conversational speech. At least the person that was receiving, on the receiving end of the communication, was able to understand what they needed. And now we've just grown, and it's quite amazing. And one of the gals that's in that video, in that documentary, is Shoshana Nelson. Shoshana would be considered nonverbal. And she comes in, hello, Joanne.
Lovely.
Willow here. I mean, it's amazing. You know, it's really amazing.
And honestly, when you think about the whole scope of what you're doing, and there's got to be an element of self-esteem that comes with, you know, when you're standing up and when you're moving your body, self-esteem comes with that, and physical fitness. It's a win-win-win situation.
That's right.
To have your child involved with this. So again, you know, you're located here in Los Angeles.
Yeah. We have a class every Saturday, 11:30 to 12:15 in Van Nuys.
Okay. But there are many more places around the world now where you have certified people. So I don't want people to think, you know, because we have people watching in 103 different countries.
Zimbabwe.
So, you know, there may already be a class where you are.
That's right.
And so you can go to autismmovementtherapy.com and check to see.
.org.
.org. But if this interests you, if this clicks with you and you think, oh my gosh, this could be something for me, I want to start one in my community, I want to be able to do this, get certified.
Get certified, exactly.
And you're a firecracker. I mean, I think it'd be fun to be at a certification with you.
It is fun. Make friends. Our individuals who are certified make friends for life. There's a camaraderie. There's a number of different Facebook groups that have started from the certification workshops, Autism Movement Therapy, and there's 3 of them, I believe.
Okay.
Then there's me, Autism Movement Therapy on Facebook as well. We're on Twitter, Autism Movement. We're autismmovementtherapy.org. And I also am now doing, and I would like to say this, Shannon, you know, it's like pushing a boulder up a hill for many years with the art therapy for our kids. People didn't want to hear about it. They wanted their child to talk or read or do math. And I kept saying, this is the bridge here. The arts are the bridge. And I don't just mean movement and music. I mean all the arts. Sculpture, all the higher level thinking skills art. Visual art, sculpture, yoga, movement, music, dance.
Theater. We're going to do a piece on
everything.
theater in the news a little bit later on in the show. These are all important things.
Yes.
And they help relieve the stress. On top of all of that, you guys, we're all dealing with anxiety with our kids, so beneficial.
And the parents are able to, if you're thinking of bringing the child to the class, the first class, and you're a little like, I'm not so sure it's going to work out. One, I'll speak with you on the phone. We'll talk about behaviors if we need to look at that. I have a number of aides that are in the classroom with me that help if I need that. But I'm not a big aid person. I'll let you know. I don't do, you know, hand over hand. Don't touch, please. I want use of the brain. So if you're going to model, I want you standing in front of the child and modeling, not manipulating limbs. I'm very, very adamant about that. You know, because the child's like, wow, a lot of lights in this area. You know, I mean, that doesn't require the processing of the brain, which is really, it's all about the brain.
Remarkable.
Everything in autism is all about the brain.
Well, I'm so thrilled to have finally met you. We got to have you back on the
love to
show.
come back.
And again, you can go to autismmovementtherapy.com or .org and check out what Joanne is doing and find a place where you can do it as well or get certified. Remarkable. Thank you so much for being with us. I want to mention, too, very quickly that you're going to be speaking. You're a keynote at Flying High with Autism in Pensacola, Florida on June 8th. And at the I Care for Autism International Conference on July 2nd in New York with Stephen Shore. And then the Kuwait Autism Conference November 11th
I know,
with Stephen
pinch me,
Shore.
we're going to Kuwait.
That's very exciting.
That is a breakthrough.
There you go.
Oh my gosh.
Remarkable.
Yes, great.
Well, thank you so
Thank you
much for
having
being
me.
here. We're going to take a break and be back with more of Autism Live after these messages.
Skills is an online program that provides assessment, curriculum, positive behavior support planning for challenging behavior, and progress tracking, and it does this all in one place. The Skills Assessment and Curriculum addresses 8 areas of development, which even includes advanced higher level areas such as executive functions and cognition, which pretty much makes Skills the only ABA-based set of curricula for teaching more complex skills, things like problem solving, planning, self-management, perspective taking, and even inferring and predicting others' private events. Skills is a 4-step system. Step 1 is to add the child to your account. Step 2 is to start assessment. The Skills Assessment is the only ABA-based assessment with psychometric research demonstrating the language subscale to have excellent reliability. Every area of human functioning and typical child development from infancy to adolescence was researched, making the Skills Assessment the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, and we're quite proud of that.
Skills is easy to use. Simply click Start Assessment and begin answering questions. Or simply type in a keyword, find specific activities to assess, and add activities to treatment. Step 3. Choose activities. Once you've completed the assessment, Skills selects from a pool of 4,000 activities categorized by age, level, and skill type to provide you with exactly those activities each child needs. Start by choosing a curriculum, then a lesson, and finally an activity. Click the information icon to view prerequisites, ages in which targets develop, examples, and IEP goals. Click the video icon to watch a short video. Once you've identified an activity you want to teach, adding activities to treatment is a snap. Step 4. Start treatment. Here you can access customizable activity lesson details, add your own customized targets and exemplars, and edit an activity status such as introducing or mastering it. You can even print handouts such as worksheets, tracking forms, visual aids, and other materials. Skills also offers multiple progress charts mapping curriculum progress, lesson progress, and cumulative number of activities and targets mastered over time. The Skills language curriculum is categorized by verbal behavior type so that users can identify progress for verbal operants, such as echoics, mans, tax, and interverbals.
Skills is one of the only programs that provides the ability to write behavior intervention plans, or BIPs, for challenging behavior.
With just a few clicks, the outline of the behavior intervention plan is written for you and ready to be printed and implemented.
You can learn more about Skills today and get started by visiting us at www.skillsforautism.com, or you can call us at 877-975-4559. Skills. Progress starts here.
Welcome back to Autism Live. A very exciting day here. Amazing, amazing woman, Joanne Lara. I really can't say enough. I hope that if you will go to her website and check out and see if there is someone who is certified in your area to take your child to one of these classes. And if there isn't one, I really want to encourage you. You know, we're always talking about this journey, this 360-degree journey. And I know that there are so many of you who are out there, like myself, when my child was diagnosed, the things that I was doing, I was a teacher. And all the hours that I was going to be in the classroom, I couldn't be available to be in the classroom during those hours and make sure that my son got good quality ABA. So my life and my career path went, you know, and now I have this career in autism, which was unexpected, right? But like so many of you, you know, I was trying to figure it out. What am I going to do? I did not plan on it meeting. This was not my goal to be here hosting a show. I'll tell you honestly, it just was the course of events that happened. And for many of you, if you're looking for a place to be in this autism community that you can help others and that you can be employed, this is a very exciting thing that you can consider. So I put that out to you. Go to autism-movement-therapy. I will say it again, autism-movement-therapy.org or .com. All right, I wanted to take just a little bit of time to answer some of your questions here. You guys are writing in a lot about insurance, and we're thrilled to have an opportunity to talk with you about insurance. You know, tomorrow is our big CAN day, Coverage for Autism Now. So one of you wanted to know if Florida is one of the states where there has been reform. Yes, Florida has had reform, but I can give you a really good way, two different ways, in fact, that you can go and find out if your state has coverage and what it is exactly. If you go to our really good friend that we're going to be talking about in a second anyway, Julie Kornack, who works for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, made an interactive map for you. It's really superlative. If you go to centerforautism.com, and there are boxes at the top on the homepage, one says Affordable Care Act. If you click on that, it gives you a map of the United States with all of the states. You scroll over the state that you want to be at, a pop-up menu comes up and gives you a sort of thumbnail sketch of what the insurance is. It'll tell you whether they have insurance reform and what the age caps are, what the dollar caps are. Then you can scroll down and click on a state, and it gives you even more information. So that's at centerforautism.com, and you can find out specifics because, and here's the reason why that's important, is that what we've known from the beginning is that some states have insurance reform, but even within that state, that doesn't mean that you are covered. Right? This is where it gets a little bit dicey and a little bit, just like autism, it's not one size fits all. So I live in the state of California, and in the state of California, we have insurance reform. We've had it on the books for over a year now. In fact, we're approaching the second anniversary. But through my husband's employer, we are not covered for autism coverage because the plan is a self-funded plan. It means it's not really insurance. It does not go under the heading of state laws. It is what they call an ERISA plan. It's self-funded by the employer, and ERISA plans are under federal coverage. So until there is a federal mandate for insurance, those ERISA plans do not have to follow what the state legislature says. Make sense? But some plans are. There are some employers who have said, look, this is the right thing to do, and so it's the ethical thing to do. We are going to include this coverage for our employees because we want to take care of the people that we work with. There are other employers who have said, I know it's coming, so I'm going to change now. There are other employers who have said, there are lawsuits that are pending in some places because people have not gotten the coverage that they thought they should have. There was a landmark case with Kaiser Permanente that even before insurance reform passed, there are parents who started a class action lawsuit saying, you were a healthcare provider, you knew you have access to the studies, you knew what our children needed, and you didn't provide it, even though the state didn't require it. And that was going to court, but Kaiser Permanente settled out of court for $9 million. So that the families who were a part of that class action lawsuit, whose children were denied coverage for ABA, even though the state didn't require it, had a share in that $9 million lawsuit. That sent a message to other providers and other insurance companies that this is what is coming. You don't have a moral leg to stand on, and in some cases there is a question of whether you have a legal leg to stand on by denying that coverage. It's still very much a question with the ERISA, but my point is you can't assume. If you say, okay, I live in the state of California, and you go to that interactive map and you see there is insurance coverage, you go, woohoo, I'm in the best possible circumstance because I have that on my side. Then you must go to your employer and ask someone in human resources to look up for you to find, better than calling the 800 number because it's exhausting and takes your time, right? But you can go to your human resources provider and say, is there behavioral health? Is ABA covered for autism? And they're probably going to say, I don't know. Have them call and find out. Another great thing, which in some cases I would much prefer that you do, go to your ABA provider. Go to your ABA provider, find the ABA provider that you most want to work with, that you know is going to give good quality therapy, and ask them, say, here is my insurance card, please find out for me what I have coverage for. And they will do that for you. A good ABA provider will absolutely do that for you. And by the way, they understand what the codes are, they understand what the jargon terms are, they will be able to ask the question efficiently and effectively to get you the information that you need. So that often, if you already have an ABA provider that you're thinking about, I would go with that, right? But what you will find is that sometimes the people who have self-funded insurance will be covered and others will not. If you are not covered because of ERISA, we want you to participate with us tomorrow. In fact, participate with us today and tell us how you have been denied for coverage. Until enough of us speak up and say this is not okay, they're not going to change things. That's why we're asking you to write CAN somewhere on your person tomorrow. CAN stands for Coverage for Autism Now. If you do have coverage, different states have different caps. We're seeing that in some states that the cap is 12 years of age, in others it's 18, in some it's 21, and then in others there is not a cap. This is important for those of you who have older kids who are on the spectrum. Maybe they're high functioning and you're saying, I'm just having an issue with social skills, and you're wanting for your insurance to cover some sort of whether it's a social skill class or some intensive ABA so that you can help to shore that skill up. If your child has not age capped out, your insurance should be able to cover that for you. If your child, I think most of them, the lowest one is age 12. I hope and pray that if you have insurance reform and your child is under the age of 12, that you are making sure to take advantage. And of course, we continue to fight for coverage for those kids that are over the age of 12. But again, different for different states. I wanted to take just a second here to talk about some of the different things that were in the news here. The California Department of Insurance announced last week approval of new regulations that clarify medical necessity in autism treatment. Approval for permanent status of the regulations came from the Office of Administrative Law, and that was on April 10th. The rules had been issued on an emergency basis in March of 2013, but the new ruling gives a permanent status that could lead to greater enforcement and penalties from the state insurance commissioner if insurers, here comes the big part, delay or deny autism services. We asked you guys today, have you been denied? And what we have found is that a lot of people got delays, just really unspeakable delays, 6 months, 9 months, a year after they first said we want coverage for autism with a company that is supposed to pay for it. We understand that sometimes it takes a little while to ramp up to be able to get ABA services, but it shouldn't take 3 months, and it surely should not take 6 months, and it is undeniable that it should not take 9 months. And of course, the insurance companies, if you think about it, if they're going to start to fund something, it's 40 hours a week, and they're paying for it, and we're talking thousands of dollars a week. Every week that they deny, every week that they delay was money in their pockets. Well, now the state of California has said, That's just not going to happen anymore. And there's a great quote in this piece from the fabulous Julie Cornack that I mentioned earlier. It says, "We have all had frustration with denials and delays," said Julie Cornack, senior public policy analyst at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders in Tarzana. "This really is making the state law and making the public policy clear. With clear policy comes more certainty of coverage," she said. "Our hope is insurers will see the laws are in place to ensure coverage." Really important that this is now on the books, because we know that as California goes, so goes the rest of the country, and as our country goes, so goes the world. It is a horrible practice that insurance companies have put any kind of a delay or any kind of a denial, making it that it's medically necessary I just can't talk today. Medically necessary, put some urgency into those insurance companies. Okay, we also have a story here that in Massachusetts, the House unanimously passed a bill on Wednesday intended to improve education opportunities and access to services with people with autism and other intellectual disabilities. Legislation H4047 also would create a special commission to look at state policies dealing with individuals with autism and allow families to set aside money tax-free in savings accounts to pay and plan for long-term care and housing for children with intellectual disabilities. This is something that we've all been asking for a long time. Representative Garrett Bradley, who spoke in favor of the bill on the House floor, applauded the measure as one that would help families both today and into the future, and suggested that it become a model for Congress. "I can't stress enough how important I think this bill is to families across the Commonwealth," Bradley said. After the House voted 151 to 0 in favor, there was a smattering of applause from some members in the chamber. The bill would also expand eligibility for developmental services to individuals with IQs higher than 70, a current rule that Bradley said excludes many people with autism who have other developmental challenges that they must overcome. Really amazing. We want to thank our wonderful provider of some of these stories, Bob Giovatti, who is a committee consultant and who works here in this, for the state of California. We're getting there. It's piece by piece. It is piecemeal, but we are getting there. It is like putting together the puzzle with all the little puzzle pieces. We're starting to see things take shape, but we are by no means done. Stand in solidarity with us to help those families that do not yet have coverage. Let's get it done. We are not done yet. We are going to take a break now and go to the A word. This fits right in with everything we've been talking about, because we get to see in this series, this ongoing series, a little boy, Jack Riley, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. But he lives in the right place at the right time, so he gets access to that early intensive behavioral intervention, the very best quality ABA therapy, and he is thriving. So let's take a look. This is the A word.
J, K. Say it louder. L. Mm-hmm. N. O. Uh-huh. O. P. Q. Uh-huh. R. S. Mm-hmm. S. No. No. T. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Okay, fine. We'll sing later. Like a sponge right now. Anything we say, he just wants to repeat everything. Even during other programs, he'll just repeat the same instruction. We've been really working on eye contact in a structured setting, giving him the instruction, look at me. He's required to look at us, but that's been a little difficult because he's confusing the eye contact with verbal imitation, so he'll just say, look at me, instead of actually looking at you. So during play, I'll call his name or say, look at me, and he's doing really good. I don't have to prompt him too many times. He actually just spontaneously will look on his own, which is a lot better today.
Open. Help.
Help? What do you need help with? What do you need help with?
Let's see that again. Eye contact.
What do you need help with?
Look.
Huh? Show me. What do you want? What do you want?
Box.
Box? Okay.
Okay.
Say, I want box.
Box.
Say, I want.
Box.
Yeah, say, I want box.
Yeah, box.
Good. Here you go.
Here you go.
So we have a couple new programs that I'll show you. We have receptive commands, so that's just when we give him an instruction vocally, and he has to be able to perform that instruction just by being able to identify and comprehend receptively what it means. And a lot of the actions that we're going to be doing, they're gross motor actions, and they're the same actions you've been doing in NVI, so non-vocal imitation. So they'll look very, very familiar, but it's just we're doing it receptively now instead of expressively. Do this. Good job. Ready? Do this. Yay! Very good. Stand up. That's good. Nice job. There's one sticker. Okay, ready? Clap hands. Oh, almost, but try again, okay? Try again. Ready? Clap hands. Oh, almost, kiddo. We're gonna try again, okay? This is clap hands. Can you do it? Do this. That. Yeah. Okay. Ready? Clap hands. Like this. Yeah. Okay, clap hands. Yeah. Okay. You try. Clap hands. Yeah, that's clap hands. Okay, ready? Clap hands. Yeah, there you go. Okay, one more sticker. Stand up. That's right. You got all your stickers. Good job. Okay. Wait. Thank you. So that's another thing. Wait. Another thing we're working on is having him wait for things. And we're starting off with just 2 seconds. Just things like waiting for tangible items, like things that he really wants, or waiting before we go somewhere, or waiting before we open the door or something. Just so he learns that when we say wait, he just has to stand there and wait for whatever amount of time. But as he gets better and better, we're going to increase the increments of, increase the duration of the time he has to wait.
He went swimming yesterday for the first time in a while.
How did that go?
Went okay.
Yeah.
He was excited. He loved being in the water, but
Last
he was a
summer
little
we
cautious.
went in several times, and then we got diagnosed in the winter or fall, but he hasn't been in since he got diagnosed.
Okay. And did he do okay?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't here, and she was with him,
Oh, that's great.
and Papa was with
No?
us.
There too.
Yeah.
Down. Up. Up. Down. Up. Down. Up. Down. Should we draw? What's this?
Cat. Mom didn't even finish. You already knew what it was.
Cat. What's the cat say?
Meow.
What else do you want to draw? What's this?
Meow. Cloud.
Cloud. What if I do this to it?
Cloud.
Now what is it?
Tree.
Tree. Are we all done with that tree? What's this?
2.
2.
Hey, buddy. Are you kind of a narcissist?
I think he's trying to figure out.
How can I see me?
How can I?
He's so funny. He'll do that.
How can I get a better look at me?
Yeah.
He's going to climb on your lap, Miss Suzanne. I hope you don't mind.
There are some days when I'm invisible and just a fixture in the room. Today is not one of them. The past few sessions, Jack Riley will for a moment notice me and become fascinated with the camera. He's been interested in looking through the viewfinder and figuring out the difference of what he sees in front of him and what the frame is showing him. It's like he's trying to figure out what kind of reflection is being shown to him. The way in which he looks at himself and others in the camera, to me, relates to eye contact. It seems easier through that buffer.
Never interrupt a man in his crush.
He was flirting with the girls that were heading to the pool yesterday.
I guess there were some bikini girls over here he was flirting with.
He went right up to the window and like looked right at her. Set himself up.
Yeah, he did. I didn't see it, but I had it described well to me.
Then the other girl came down to get her, and he did one of these. He watched her walk by, and I'm like, okay.
Well, remember what he did to the waitress at Bodega?
It was all over her.
Yeah, he once, we went to this restaurant, and our waitress came up, and this was, I don't know, 10 months ago?
Yeah.
8 to 10 months ago, and she sauntered off, with her, and he goes like this in his stroller. He goes like this. Like the college kid, watching her walk away. Right, Jack? And he said, Dad, check it out. No, I'm just kidding. That was too much. Did I go too far?
The fact that I was taking his pants off. that might have done it.
Dad.
Hey, Stinky, now you're climbing on her with the diaper.
That's not good. That's not good. She didn't buy in for that.
I took your game, didn't I?
Yeah, I don't have any game now. No game, Dad. No game, Mom.
Pretty hard to be cool with the diaper on. Okay, sillies. Come here.
Hey.
1, 2, 3!
She's still filming. You can still watch. See?
Want to see?
There's some stuff you might not want to see, but...
Here, let's get the cracker off your chin.
No kicking. No kicking.
Don't kick your sister.
Don't kick your sister. Yeah. I was going to say, Mom? Really? Okay.
That's what I was telling him in the pool yesterday. Don't kick your little sister. And I'm like, well, that's the first time of many that I'll tell him that. Before you go back to flirting.
Rule number 1.
Yes, definitely pants back on. No kicking. Hey, squirrel! Squirrel!
Ow!
Squirrel! Squirrel! Peppa Pig. Daddy Pig. Mommy Pig.
Baby.
Baby Pig.
Baby.
Baby Pig.
Baby.
Peppa Pig.
Baby.
Baby.
I love this series. This is the A Word ongoing documentary being made here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. And I love these early on episodes because they're a little bit longer and they get a little bit more in depth. They get shorter as they go on because there's less that has to be explained. It's like the exposition, right? You need to be able to understand all these things early on. But right at the end of that one, there's this moment when he's being changed and he's getting a lot of attention. He's got the therapist, he's got Mom, he's got Dad, he's got the girl who's on the camera, and he's getting all this attention. And our kids like that, right? There's a certain amount of, and sometimes it will bring up some wicked behavior, right? To see, they're really finding their way and experimenting with, well, what happens if I do this and what happens if I do that? And they're experimenting with their senses of humor as well. So he's getting all this energy and he gets things to a fever pitch. And sometimes our kids cross lines when they get to a fever pitch. And by the way, it's not just our kids. Little kids have that too. For our kids, though, sometimes they don't lose that. But the mom has a really interesting moment there at the end where, Dad has said no kicking, no kicking, quiet legs, whatever. And then Mom says no kicking, no kicking, no kicking. She says it like 2 or 3 times. And then you see that moment in her head where for whether she's conscious of it or not, she has that moment where she goes, well, that's not really working, is it? And we do this all. I mean, I've done this. I probably did this last night where we will say to a child something in a negative, don't do that. Stop that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Because we want them to stop it. Almost never effective, right? And I hear myself sometimes saying, why do I have to get to the point where I'm yelling before you stop doing it? Because the stop that, don't do that, whatever, I might as well be doing the little Charlie Brown voice, the wop 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 wop, right? Because it doesn't work. It doesn't work. But the mom has that moment because she's had so much training where she flips to something else and she distracts him with something that's more reinforcing. So she starts doing the little dog from Up, the squirrel thing, and looking to the side. And that gets his attention, and then she gets him talking. They're doing the baby pig, and then he starts saying baby pig and saying other animals, whatever it is there at the end. But I want to just say, though, it's so beneficial to watch this series to be able to see things like that, because sometimes we can't see it when we're doing it ourselves. We can see it when our significant other is doing it and we go, ugh, doesn't he see that, that you need to stop that? That's not going to work. You can sit there and say, stop that till the cows come home, and it's not going to happen, right? But then when you see somebody else do it, it resonates and you go, oh my gosh, look, there she is, she's doing it. And then you watch her learn and do something else and see how effective it is. That to me is a powerful teaching moment. It's great if you have the benefit down the road of an ABA provider who's that voice in your ear, not only to see it when she's doing that and learning from it so that you remember that, but then that neutral party who says to you, switch to something else so that eventually you don't need the prompt and that you automatically do it. How many years later, I've had 8 some odd years of ABA training, and I still make that mistake on a regular basis. But I think most days, depends on how tired I am, I can click over into the what to do that's right quicker than I used to. So that's progress, right? And sometimes I don't do it at all. But, in any case, I mentioned earlier that we had Dr. Temple Grandin on with us this morning. We're going to go see her on Friday. We are going to be at that conference done by Future Horizons. On Friday, we're going to go and be there. I believe Nancy Alsbaugh Jackson's going to go. Emily and I will be there, and we're going to take my son as well and go out to Ventura and be there for that conference. But we wanted to speak to Temple a little bit before that, and so we filmed this morning a conversation that I had with her on the phone so that you guys could listen in. It's very interesting. I will, a little disclaimer that there was a little bit of a phone issue for her. We were not hearing it here, but there was, because we were, speaking across a long distance, and I believe she was in motion in a moving vehicle. So, there is a little bit of a disturbance there, but we were able to forge ahead and through it, and I was very grateful to her for the fact that we were able to do that. So we want to play that interview for you now. This was this morning, just a little while ago, with Dr. Temple Grandin. We're going to take a break first, and then it's going to come after the break. So stick with us, and then we'll be back with more Autism Live after the interview with Temple Grandin. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Lisa Ackerman. Welcome back to Talk of Facts, where you get to ask the questions and we help lead you to the common answers and available for your autism journey. A most common question we get is, why are some of the treatments used in the medical world not covered for autism? My answer to you, and it may shock you, is they are covered. The stopgap between payment and non-payment is how you code your insurance bills. Now, there are some standards, an American Academy of Pediatric Standards of Care for autism that are covered. Those are available on the Talk Now website, talkanow.org. But what you find often, and this has been proven in multiple studies, that children with autism not just suffer with or have issues with that label, they also have a lot of other medical issues that tend to come with autism. So as a parent, you need to know we have a complete white paper on all of the things I'm going to describe to you that's free. It talks about the most common comorbid conditions that comes with autism. So comorbid, just think of it as comes with. So at the TACA website, we give you all of the codes in our health insurance tips, reimbursement tips document that will help you code and get the maximum reimbursement from your health insurance company. So no, autism is treatable, and yes, health insurance do pay for that treatment. So hopefully that tip helped. We'll see you back next time for the next Talk a Fact.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. We have a very special guest who is on the phone with us. Once again, we have Dr. Temple Grandin. It is such a thrill to have her with us this morning. Thank you, Dr. Grandin, for being willing to be with us.
Okay.
And we have a bunch of questions from parents. And just before we started, I was talking to you about the fact that parents are so interested in what you have to say about finding your child's strength and how some children are visual, some are more conceptual thinkers. And parents always want some help and guidance, Dr. Grandin, about how they can figure out where their child's strengths are so they can start to feed them. Do you have any advice for us?
Well, yes, definitely. In my book, The Autistic Brain, I talk about the visual thinkers like me who think in photorealistic pictures. These kids oftentimes have a lot of problems when they hit algebra. Then you've got the more mathematical mind, the pattern thinker. These kids are often the little mathematicians, but they'll have trouble with reading. I'm getting a lot of static.
We can hear you great, though.
What? Okay. Hopefully edit out some of this other comments. Then you also have the word thinkers. Now, a kid's ability usually shows up around 3rd or 4th grade. It can sometimes happen earlier, but 3rd or 4th grade is when it tends to show up. You're not going to see it usually in 3-year-olds. You know, visual thinkers often will start drawing and being really good at art. That's your hint. The little mathematicians are going to be good at math. And with mathematicians, don't hold them back. Don't hold them back and make them do baby math. Let them do more advanced. Math. If a 3rd grader can do a high school math book, let them do it. Word thinkers are often good at writing.
And so, but
excuse me, what is all this extra noise in the?
I am not hearing any extra noise, so I'm not sure. We're not getting any of that static that you're having. In fact, we're hearing you quite clearly.
Okay, because I'm getting something like paper shuffling, and it's not me. I'm not touching anything.
No, we're not getting any of that, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
Hopefully, it will dissipate because it's such a thrill to have you here. And
okay.
so do you think that sometimes parents are trying to look for those clues a little too early? Do you think waiting till 3rd or 4th grade is the key?
Yeah, they tend to look too early. My ability in art did not really show up until 3rd and 4th grade.
Interesting. And so before that, your mother probably wouldn't have been able to see how great of a visual mind you have.
Well, I can remember Valentines I made when I was 5, and they were just regular little kids' art. They were not anything good.
Okay. All right. And now, Dr. Grandin, we are going to have an opportunity to see you on Friday. You are coming to Ventura, California for a Future Horizon event for a conference on Friday. And you're speaking about sensory issues. And this is an area where parents have a lot of questions for you about sensory issues. And how can we begin to understand, if we are not on the autism spectrum, what sensory issues our child might be having?
Well, one of the most common, and I had it, is hearing sensitivity. If you see a child holding his ears or he has a meltdown when he's in a noisy shopping center, that's very likely to be sound sensitivity. And sometimes that can be desensitized if the child can control the dreaded sound, where he can, control turning it on, control making it go off. Other kids have visual sensitivity. This is not my problem. But other kids will have this where they can't tolerate fluorescent lights. They can see them flicker. When they get tired, visual images may kind of break up into what one person called Picasso vision. You can get touch sensitivity. I couldn't stand being held. And that can sometimes be desensitized with deep pressure. And in my book, The Autistic Brain, I have a whole chapter outlining the sensory issues. And the other thing about them, they are extremely variable from sense to sense. You know, one kid will have hearing problems, another kid will have visual problems.
And is it ever that a variable in terms of what time of day or other things going on? Were you able to be touched in some circumstances but not in others?
Well, the sensory problems get worse when kids get tired. But one kid will have a touch sensitivity problem, another kid will not have it. They are extremely variable, and they'll vary in severity, and they're going to vary into which sense is affected.
Absolutely. And we're so excited on Friday to hear you speak on this event because it really is unknown territory for a lot of parents. You feel like you're delving in, and I will tell you honestly, as a parent of a child on the autism spectrum, it's so important. It's like, I think that most of us would give anything if for a day we could get inside our kid's head and experience through their nervous system what they were experiencing. It is really an area where a lot of parents just feel completely at sea, Dr. Grandin.
Well, let's just imagine, for hearing sensitivity, a dentist drill hitting a nerve. Also, imagine your ears are a microphone, and it only has two settings. You can turn it off, or it's on super loud. It has no intermediate settings.
Yeah, now that my son is really, really verbal, it's fascinating to me that he'll talk about certain sounds and he says, oh, I can't be around that sound. And he'll say to me, it's like my brain is bleeding if I hear that sound. He said, every part of me, he says, feels like my brain is bleeding and that my bones are turning to water, which sounds terrible to me.
Well, it's sensory overload. It's like too intense.
Yeah.
Is the problem. And I can't stand that horrible Dyson blade hand dryer that they have in the bathroom, but I tolerate it now. You know, now if I had to work in an office and listen to that constantly, that would not work. But, you know, sometimes some of the sound sensitivity in little kids can be desensitized somewhat if they control it. One of the real bad sounds is when a microphone squeals. You know, you get the microphone too close to the speaker and the speaker squeals. Well, let the child take the handheld microphone. He walks up to it, and when it just goes, eh, then he can back off.
Yeah.
He's controlling it.
Okay.
My fear when I was a child was balloons popping. And one of the ways that could have maybe been desensitized is take a balloon and blow it up really tiny, and then I take a pin and pop it, and it barely makes a sound. Then we blow it up just a little bit bigger, and I take a pin and pop it. Where I am in control. That's the key.
Okay. So when you're doing the desensitization, make sure that there is an element that the child is controlling for it.
Absolutely.
I love
All right,
that.
let's say the problem is throwing a fit at the supermarket. Well, let the child control how much supermarket he's going to tolerate. When he raises his hand up, and there's a special signal, you're going to take him out of the supermarket.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I think that's remarkable, which kind of leads me into the next set of questions, Dr. Grandin. We have a lot of parents that are talking about anxiety and how they can help their kids and teenagers especially deal with anxiety. Is that a control thing as well?
Well, no. There's a problem in some individuals with autism with the fear system just being turned on in overdrive. In fact, my amygdala, the fear center, is larger than normal. Now, I want to emphasize, not everybody on the spectrum has this. This is where we get into the variability. But us visual thinkers, I've seen this with a lot of non-autistic visual thinkers too, when we hit puberty, when I hit puberty, that's when the panic attacks started. It was absolutely horrible. It was sort of like being in a land with a bunch of lions stalking around, and that's the way my nervous system was acting. It was dreadful. And it's now controlled with a low dose of antidepressant drugs. This is where medication can make a difference. And the medications you should be using for this is not the antipsychotics, like things like risperidol, Abilify, and stuff like that. you need to be using some of the old-fashioned drugs, like a little tiny bit of Prozac. I'm taking a little tiny dose of an ancient old drug called disipramine. And you need to make sure you use very low doses, because too high a dose, you can get agitation and insomnia. And I strongly recommend that people read the chapter in Thinking in Pictures. I have a chapter in there called A Believer in Biochemistry, which describes all of my experiences. And to read that chapter in Thinking in Pictures, I want to emphasize there's no new drugs that work any better than the old drugs. Most of the new drugs are what are called patent extenders. They're just Me Too drugs. The ancient old drugs that you can buy down at Walmart will work just fine, and those are the drugs that are discussed in the chapter in Thinking in Pictures, A Believer in Biochemistry.
Okay, really remarkable. And you mentioned that if it's the wrong dose, that you can have insomnia, which then I imagine can exacerbate the problem, and that sometimes you will get people who can be aggressive. And the next set of questions that our parents wanted to know was about those kids that are aggressive. We had one parent in particular who said, my son is 24 and can be very violent. What can I do? What do you recommend for that?
Kinds of violence. There's one type that's a hot and sweaty rage, and it's kind of diffuse, and they tend to be really hot and sweaty. And there's a new book out called Hope for the Violently Aggressive Child that you can get from Future Horizons. And that book talks about the use of the old-fashioned blood pressure medicines, things like beta blockers, alpha blockers, clonidine, propanolol, some of these old ancient blood pressure pills, which can work really well. That's for the more hot and sweaty rage. Then you can get a rage that's kind of an irritability type of rage, especially in nonverbal clients, where a very, very low dose of risperidol, and I mean a really low dose, and you can use the generic. You don't have to use the expensive things. Also in Thinking in Pictures, I talk about a doctor named Joe Hudgens, who worked with some of the worst clients in terms of violence. Another type of rage thing, it's actually a psychomotor seizure. And when this happens, it's like a switch out of the blue. It's like something flipped a light switch, and they just get set off with it. And it doesn't have any rhyme or reason to it. They could be listening to the music player, just relaxing under a tree, and then they just throw a big fit. And that's a psychomotor epilepsy.
Okay, really good information. We have a question from a viewer that wants to know about explaining death and helping an individual on the spectrum to deal with the feelings and all the unknowns that come around death. And I'm imagining that you've experienced the death of a loved one many times throughout your life at this point. Temple, what can you help us to understand?
Well, you just have to understand that they're gone. I can remember as a young child, there was a teachable moment. This doesn't sound very nice, but it really made me understand why I should not run in front of a car. And there was a squashed squirrel on the pavement. He was very flat. And there was no way the veterinarian was going to put the squirrel back together again. And that's the reason why you don't run in front of cars, because I wouldn't want to be like that squirrel. And there's a point where, the person's gone. This is for some people a religious faith that's really helps them out. They're gone.
Yeah. Do you feel like you've experienced the grief of loss in your life?
No, I've definitely had things where I've, grieved about.
Yeah.
They're gone. And I can remember when Ann died, I was, really upset about that. Ann is with the aunt out at the ranch.
Mm-hmm. And how long did it take you to get to a point where you felt better? And was there anything that helped you to get over it?
Well, I kind of wanted to remember them more like how they were alive, not what she looked like when she was almost dead. I can remember when she was all like really old looking and terrible looking and shriveled up looking. I like to remember, I've got this one picture that I show in my cattle handling talk of Ann standing in the middle of one of my corral systems, and I'd rather remember that, and I actually show that picture in my class.
That's a good thing.
Ann's in that picture.
That's a good thing to think of, to remember them the way when they were in their prime and remarkably happy. Okay.
She was very, very happy, and she was standing in the middle of one of my very early corral system designs.
Really remarkable. So I also have a bunch of parents who are wanting to know, the autism community seems to be very fractured at the moment. Like there are a bunch of different camps of people saying, we want you to use these words. We want to refer to autism.
All right, well, refer to the camps. Just label them 1, 2, 3 of whatever, and I'm going to write down what they
Okay. So it seems like there are a group of individuals who are on the autism spectrum who are offended a lot of the times when people say, well, we're trying to overcome things having to do with autism. They feel like we've attached negativity to the term autism, and they feel like there are a lot of great things with autism, and that when, for instance, up north, they said a thing about how they wanted to get rid of autism in our lifetime, and that,
all right,
that hurt their feelings.
Let's simplify this. In other words, these are people on the spectrum that are against the idea of curing autism.
Yeah, or even the language around that. Yeah.
All right.
Then you have
and the next group.
The next group is parents who think of autism as something that they have to help their child overcome, that they need to work on, and that there is hope for their child to overcome the more disabling aspects of autism. They're not looking.
How you define overcome? I consider, overcoming, getting a good job that you like and supporting yourself.
Yeah.
Going to college, those would be things that would be, I would consider, overcoming it. You're still autistic.
Right.
I don't want to be like these guys that are sitting at home playing video games all day.
Right.
That's not a successful outcome.
Right. And then it seems like there's a third group of parents who believe that their children have been diagnosed with autism, and their children are on the more severe end, and they don't have a whole lot of hope for their child making any progress, and they view autism as a tragedy.
No, all right. Let's just address these one at a time. We've got 3 groups here. Now, I have said in many of my talks, let's talk about group 1.
Yeah.
These are the people on the spectrum. And I have said in many of my talks that if we were to eliminate all autism genetics, you better like your computer really well, because there's not going to be any more computer engineers to build you a new one. Because if you got rid of all the autism genetics, you'd be getting rid of an awful lot of creativity, because a little bit of the trait can give some advantages, like mathematical thinking, visual thinking, some of these sorts of things.
Yes.
And now when it comes to, so totally getting rid of autism genetics, I completely am against that. But on the other hand, I want people to be successful. So how do I define success? Getting out in the workforce and supporting yourself, preferably in a job you're going to like. I've gone out to Silicon Valley, and there's undiagnosed Asperger's people out there. They're having a great time. Free food, pastel bikes to ride around on. And then there is another group that's gotten addicted to video games and has become a video game recluse sitting at home. That's not a successful outcome.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're happy. And some of these are going to need a little bit of medication to cut the anxiety. And one of the things that helped make me be successful was when I was a teenager, I was not allowed to become a recluse in my room. They let me work in the horse barn. They let me mess around and not study. But be a recluse in my room, that was where I was not allowed to do that. I had to be out doing things. And when I didn't want to go to Friday night movie night, they gave me a choice: projectionist or sit in the audience. All right, let's talk about group 2, parents that want to help their child overcome. Okay, so this group of parents tends to be on the kids that are less severe. In other words, you do the early intervention, you've got the child talking. Yes, they'd like to have their child do well in school. Mm-hmm. Maybe have their child go to college. I'm seeing a lot of kids having a lot of trouble with the school system, because I'd estimate that maybe 20% of individuals on the spectrum that are fully verbal would be really good at one of the skilled trades, and there's a zillion jobs out there that are really fun jobs. Some of the best parts of my life was working in construction. I just loved it. And no, you're not going to make the autism go away, but you've got to teach social skills. I had social skills pounded into me. I mean, I had to be a little party host when I was young. And I'm seeing too many kids that don't know how to shake hands. They're too shouldered. I hate it at a meeting when the mom comes up and does all the talking for their child, and the child doesn't do any of the talking. The child's got to learn to do the talking. And I want people to be successful, because what happens is I'm seeing when I go to a meat packing plant or I go to some technical thing, I am seeing that same geeky kid that doesn't have the label, and he's doing good.
Yeah.
Now, where an autism label in somebody that's got a good job does good is in their relationships. And that's why I did my book, Different Not Less, 14 old Aspies that made it in the workplace but had trouble with their relationships. And that can be really helpful. You know, you're not going to make them normal, but it defines how you call overcome. Yeah. Somebody that sits in a room for 8 hours a day playing video games and is on a Social Security check, that's not a good outcome.
Yeah.
And that's I'm seeing too many kids going down that route. All right, now we get into this third group where you've got parents with extremely severe autism, and the child is not making progress. Mm-hmm. And they've got all kinds of problems with the kid. You're not able to do any normal activities. I can remember one time I did a talk at a big church down in Texas, and they had a respite night where the parents could bring in their really severely, the kind of kids that you cannot do normal activities with. You cannot go to a restaurant with them. You cannot go to shopping center. You cannot do a movie. You can't do church. You can't do just normal events. And they described this one poor family that put the air conditioning on in their car after they dropped the kid off and just lay there in the car for 4 hours playing the stereo. Mm. They were just completely strung out. You see, this is the problem we have with autism. It's such a big spectrum. You're going from Silicon Valley to a child that may have epilepsy, multiple medical problems on top of the autism, that is extremely handicapped, and they cannot do any normal stuff at all.
Yeah, and I wonder, Dr. Grandin, if part of the issue is that it's hard to explain that to our legislators. I think that a lot of people in office don't understand that autism is such a huge spectrum that you can be talking about the person who's in Silicon Valley making a good living and the person who is not able to go and eat at a restaurant. I think that's hard for our legislators to understand.
I think it's hard, and I think the DSM-5, getting rid of Asperger's, was a mistake. Okay. Because from the standpoint of providing services, there's a big difference between the fully verbal kids and the ones that are very, very severe. They need a totally different kind of service. And the thing, from a service provider standpoint, having the category of significant speech delay and maybe never developing speech, as opposed to no speech delay, or at least there's no speech delay that anybody notices from a service provider standpoint, actually makes a lot of sense.
Do you like, though, that in the new DSM-5 that it has designations of that are about being severely affected, being more moderately affected? Does that
that's
part?
Good. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. But then you've got to define those categories.
I agree.
Now, I would put in the severely affected that they remain, they don't get speech.
Yeah.
That would be severely affected. Now, when I was 3, I had no speech. But when I got into very good early intervention, I managed to get speech.
And we had the opportunity a week ago today that for the first time we were able to talk to your mom on the show, and it was a very exciting thing, and it was very thrilling for me to have an opportunity to talk with her. And she talked about some of that early speech that you got and how amazing those women were who taught you at a time when women didn't have a lot of career choices, how they were really pioneers. It was really exciting to hear her talk about that.
And Miss Reynolds, my speech teacher, she basically did ABA. I mean, Miss Reynolds is the inventor of ABA. She was doing it in her basement on me, back in like 1949.
I find that really remarkable, Temple. That gives me so much hope. We have to let you go because we promised that we wouldn't keep you very long, and we have to start our live show. But we are going to come and see you on Friday, and I'm thinking of bringing my 10-year-old son to meet you as well on Friday. We think that this is a remarkable event. Again, we want to talk about it's the Future Horizons conference that you're going to be speaking there. And if people want to register to go to that, it's in Ventura, California. That they can go to fhautism.com and they can register for that. And you do these conferences frequently around the country for Future Horizons.
I do quite a few conferences. Yes, I do.
And they can find out more information about that at Future Horizon, fhautism.com. You can see all the different places where you can go and see Dr. Grandin speak. We'll look forward to seeing you on Friday, Dr. Grandin.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All righty. Yeah, bye.
Hello, fellow activists. Last segment, we talked about step 3, get support. Step number 4 is don't compare, run your own race. Now, it's one thing to aspire to be like someone that's really helped their child. We all want to do that. That's really different than keeping up with the Joneses. That only serves to make you envious and full of regret. There will always be someone who has a child with autism who is doing better than yours, and there will always be someone who has a child with autism who's doing worse than yours. One morning I was talking to the mom of a recovered child who told me he had been moved into the gifted class. Well, I had heard that week that my own son, who was in 5th grade, was reading at 1st grade level. Now, I have to admit, I was kind of proud of him until that phone call, which put me over the edge. The green-eyed monster of jealousy. Well, later that same day, I got into the elevator as I was taking my son to clinic. There was a father with his 2 sons, one typical and one with severe autism. He was pretty much nonverbal, but he did make some very strange sounds over and over again. He had bite marks, scratches all over his arms. He wore mittens to protect him from himself. The father, however, had a big smile on his face. Needless to say, the universe was sending me a message that day. Don't compare. Be grateful for the progress your child has made and will continue to make. So until next time, keep running your own race at your own pace. Don't forget to stop for water and keep the faith.
2 remarkable women right there. First, Dr. Temple Grandin and Cialspa Jackson. And I believe that they're going to get to meet for the first time on Friday. I'm so excited that I have a front row seat for that. And I'm going to bring my child to meet Dr. Grandin as well. Should be pretty exciting on Friday. And Emily, you've not gotten to meet Dr. Grandin, have you? You didn't get to go with us when we went and met her before, did you? So Emily's going to get to meet Dr. Grandin too. It's pretty cool. A very exciting thing. We thank Temple Grandin so much for being with us earlier today and being willing to talk with us. And then again, we're going to talk with her on Friday. So if you have a specific question for Dr. Grandin that we haven't now, we've interviewed her, I think 4 times now, and take a look at all the different videos that we have with her to see if your question has already been answered, first of all, because we don't want to ask her the same question again and again and again, right? She's a busy woman. She's got places to go, things to do. But if we haven't asked her a question that you're interested in having her answer, please send that to us before Friday so that we have an opportunity to see that. I wanted to take a minute. I mentioned earlier when we had Joanne Lara here talking about autism movement therapy. She was mentioning the arts in general and how good the arts are for our kids on the autism spectrum. And I said we're going to be talking about that later because the new study out about drama, and you know that this is something very near and dear to my heart, that when I taught college, and I taught college theater. That's my background. Headline here says, drama helps kids with autism communicate better. And of course, Temple Grandin has said to us before that she thinks having a child involved in theater and acting really, really a good thing for them to do. We talked with Temple Temple Grandin's mom last week. Eustacia Cutler, my phone is making noises, and forgive my distraction. And she talked about being in the theater and playing a mermaid, and how cool that was for Temple and her sister to come and to get them up on stage, and how important that is. And Temple has said it just really helps you to see things from another person's point of view and to try different behaviors, and very, very interesting. But this piece in particular talks about, starts out, could drama workshops help children with autism spectrum disorders? Results from a pilot study called Imagining Autism suggests this might be the case. The research involved 22 children aged between 7 and 12. So those of you who are thinking, oh, I got to wait till later, this was for 7 to 12-year-olds, and consisted of one 45-minute session every week for 10 weeks. During that time, groups of 4 children entered an enclosed, themed environment, such as a forest or outer space. These environments were designed to engage all senses simultaneously using lights, sound, puppetry, and interactive digital elements. There were trained performers who were there, trained in improvisation, and who also understood the autism spectrum and what possible reactions kids might have. And they helped them to access the environment physically, verbally, to play within that environment. Okay, now, is it just me? This sounds a little bit like Fantasy Island to me. You know, when I was a kid and I would watch Fantasy Island, I know I'm dating myself, and people could go to Fantasy Island and go into the Wild West, or they could go into outer space or whatever and live out a fantasy. And I used to say, okay, that is such a cool idea. Somebody should be doing that. This sounds like a little bit like Fantasy Island, but for kids on the spectrum. Okay, so, but they encouraged them to access the environment, to develop their communication, social interaction, and imagination skills. And they call that the triad of impairments seen in autism. The children were assessed before the intervention and again between 2 and 6 weeks after the session ended, as well as looking at whether behaviors used to diagnose autism changed after the drama sessions. The researchers also assessed emotion recognition, imitation, IQ, and theory of mind, the ability to infer what others are thinking and feeling. Subjective ratings were also gathered from the parents and teachers, and follow-up assessments were conducted up to a year later. So pretty comprehensive. At the early assessments, all the children showed some improvement. The most significant change was in the number of facial expressions recognized, a key communication skill. 9 children improved on this. 6 children improved on their level of social interaction. The majority of these changes were also seen at the follow-up assessments. David Wilkinson at the University of Kent, the lead psychologist on the project, said, if you look at other studies of this nature, that's quite a significant effect. The project leader, Nicola Shaughnessy, a professor of performance at the University of Kent, who presented the Imagining Autism results at a conference earlier this month, credits the approach's effectiveness to engaging all of the children's senses at once. Children are moving and thinking and interacting at the same time, she said. It's an opportunity for children to create their own narratives in an unconstrained, unfamiliar environment. They find this empowering, as we know from the psychology literature, that individuals who are empowered enjoy increased attention skills and improved sense of well-being. Again, that was from Wilkinson. David Wilkinson. Then they go on to talk about something called iambic calming. Now, this, be still my theater professor heart. I think it quite plausible that drama experience will aid at least some autistic children in learning about social interactions. This is from Uta Firth of the University College of London. But she stresses that the small size of the pilot study and the lack of a control group means the study is not sufficient to draw conclusions from. I really appreciate that because, you know, we talk with Dr. Jonathan Tarbox a lot here about looking at a study and extrapolating, you know, what it's really saying. So in this particular study, in order for it to be earth-shattering news that look at how effective drama is, they would have had to have had a control group of kids who didn't have access to the drama portion but were doing everything else so that we could isolate, was it the drama that was actually helping them. But I think what's worthwhile here is there's enough information here for us to want to study further. And for those of you who have kids and you're trying to find something meaningful to put them into, something to work on, it's a good bet that you can put them in a drama program and that it's going to help in some way. And there are many groups that are thinking along these same lines, because what she went on to say is what we've demonstrated is that something that is well received and could work. There are other groups. There's a project at Ohio State University in Columbus called Shakespeare and Autism that claims the similarity between the heartbeat and the rhythm of iambic pentameter can help children to feel safer when communicating. I want to talk about that some more. The SENSE program, which we've covered here before on the show, Social, Emotional, Neuroscience, and Endocrinology theater project at Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee, has also carried out a 2-week pilot study at a summer camp for children with autism. And as I said, we've covered that before. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about iambic pentameter and this iambic calming. I remember as a kid in high school and reading about Shakespeare and reading Shakespeare, and I didn't get it. I just didn't get it. And I was a theater kid and I loved theater, but I just didn't get the Shakespeare thing. I was like, what is the big deal? Everybody talks so funny, it's just so weird. Went to college, did Shakespeare, you know, and participated and tried to grin and bear it. I just didn't get it. I mean, I got it, but I was like, people get so excited about Shakespeare. Why do they get so excited? I'd much rather, you know, let's hear the stories. I like the stories, but let's hear them in some regular language. I just didn't get it. And then I went off to graduate school and met a couple of really fascinating people. One of them, Barry Kraft, who is one of the most amazing actors from the Ashland Shakespeare Festival in Oregon, and fabulous. And of course, you know, this is like dropping names here, and I cannot think of what his name is. I swear I've had a senior moment. But the guy, help me out, Patrick Stewart. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I couldn't remember his name. I was going to say Jean-Luc Picard from Enterprise. Patrick Stewart, and from the X-Men. Came to my graduate school to do a brief series on Shakespeare. And what I learned from Patrick Stewart and from Barry Kraft was, and I knew about iambic pentameter, but I didn't really understand it as a performer. That Shakespeare and people of his time, what they did was that they would write and when they got to something that was it was like the precursor to a musical. So if somebody is speaking in a play and they're speaking just normally, and then they get to a point where the emotion is so big that they're going to sing about it, then we write it rhythmically, right, for a musical theater. Well, Shakespeare did the same thing well before people were doing musicals. He would write a character, and when something would happen, they would speak in iambic pentameter. An iambic pentameter mimics a heartbeat. So it's ga-gung, 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 ga-gung. And Shakespeare was so brilliant, and one of the reasons why his work has survived so much is that he sets up this rhythm of a heartbeat, the ga-gung, 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 and then, like when you listen to a good piece of music, you know how they have, you know, either the drummer or the bass player plays a certain rhythm, and you get used to it. So when something suddenly, a key change happens, or a rhythm change happens, or there's a drum solo, or a new rhythm comes in, your heart beats a little bit faster because it's been lulled into this rhythm that everything's okay, and when it changes, excitement happens. And when I saw for the first time actors who use that to their benefit, then I got excited about Shakespeare too. And as a teacher, I love now to go into classrooms for younger kids as early as 2nd grade and start working with them on iambic pentameter, because kids come at those things and understand them just intrinsically. You don't have to explain it to them. They hear when it gets exciting. They lean forward when it gets exciting. It's later when we're a little bit more cynical that we're like, you know. But in any case, I love that now this technology, and it really is technology built into the writing of the plays, the Shakespeare plays, that they're finding that that heartbeat rhythm of iambic pentameter can be very soothing to our kids. Well, that's exactly what it's meant to do, is to soothe. If you ever have the opportunity to, sometimes there are nursery rhymes that are written in iambic pentameter, because it's that ga-gung, ga-gung, ga-gung that helps to lull the child to sleep. Really, really fascinating. I love the idea of doing Shakespeare with our kids with autism. I think I have found what I want to do once we're done with Autism Live. I want to do Shakespeare and autism. And again, they're doing that right now at Ohio State University. They're calling it the Shakespeare and Autism. I just love that. We'll have to see if we can get somebody from there on. And I was going to take a break, but Emily, we can't, right? I think not. No break. I don't have her. So in any case, I want to remind all of you a couple of different things. Oh, I've got 2 things left to cover. This Friday, the Future Horizons Conference with Dr. Temple Grandin as the keynote speaker. Also having Dr. Roan Melmed, and he is going to be speaking from the pediatrician's perspective. And Jennifer McElwain-Myers is going to be speaking on life skills for those on the spectrum. Dr. Temple Grandin will be speaking on my sensory-based world. So I want to encourage you, we will be there on Friday. If you want to get tickets, and there are still tickets available, go get them online. You'll save $5. FHautism.com, and there is a tab there for conferences. You can look and see. This one is in Ventura, California, but they're having many more throughout 2014, and you can see where the closest one is to you. Also, a press release that just came out, Autism Awareness Training for First Responders teaches emergency personnel how to respond to individuals with autism. And this is coming to you from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders and the Institute for Behavioral Training. They've partnered together, 2 of our favorite people, to present Autism for First Responders trainings nationwide to teach emergency personnel how to interact with and respond to individuals with autism. So several dates that are coming up here. And again, the training is titled Autism for First Responders. It's going to be presented in Fairport, New York on April 30th, Larchmont, New York on April 30th, Chicago, Illinois on April 23rd, Austin, Texas, April 26th, Phoenix, Arizona on the 28th and 29th, Washington, D.C. on April 23rd, and in California cities, Sacramento on April 28th, Fresno on April 25th, Woodland Hills on the 24th of April, Thousand Oaks on April 30th, Tustin on May 1st, and Temecula on April 29th, Riverside on April 28th, and San Marcos on April 29th. It really is important that our first responders have an understanding of what to do when somebody is having difficulty communicating. So very important. Cecilia Knight, who we've had before on the show, who's the director of IBT, says training first responders to recognize ASD is crucial. Helping a family find a child who has wandered away, protecting an adult with autism whose behavior is misunderstood, or helping a paramedic know how to interact when a child is injured can truly make a life or death difference. Recognizing the signs of autism and knowing how to react is key. The trainings will all be hosted by CARD treatment centers across the United States. IBT's training will teach attendees to recognize the signs and symptoms of ASD, how to communicate with individuals who appear to be affected by autism, and tips for first responders who interact with individuals on the spectrum. You can find more information or set up a training by visiting www.centerforautism.com/first first-responders.aspx. You can also go to ibehavioraltraining.com. So really important, and I really want to urge all of you to make sure that the first responders in your area have information. I have to say I'm one of the luckiest people I know because Emily Island already had gone through my community and trained all of the first responders in my community, and what a lovely gift. But now be that person in your community. Call or go to that website and set up one of these trainings for the first responders in your area. Really, really essential that you don't want to be down the road and saying, oh, had I only known. Now, tomorrow, I want to talk a little bit about tomorrow's show because we have, of course, Dr. Doreen Grampachet is going to be with us in the morning for Ask Dr. Doreen. And we so appreciate it when you guys write in your questions, especially if you have the opportunity to do it before the morning. You get a better chance of getting your question answered, but then we also try to answer them live as well. But towards the second half of the program, it sometimes is harder for me to get them squeezed in. So I encourage you to go on to Facebook and make sure that you have sent in your question. That's free, and Dr. Doreen Grampachet is a true expert in the field of autism. Also tomorrow, it's Wednesday, so it's time for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy Alspot Jackson will be here with me, and we have a really wonderful guest. Bonnie Schlotke is going to be here talking about ballet for autism. We had Joanne Lara talking about autism movement therapy, and then tomorrow we're going to be talking about ballet, a whole other set of skills. And of course, tomorrow is the can day. We are asking all of you to write cans somewhere on your person, to participate with us and send us your pictures so that we can forward them on to lawmakers and let them know that so many of you are affected by autism and that you need this important insurance reform. I believe that we are out of time. I've lost my contact with Emily, but I'm trying to see where my connection has gone awry. But I believe that we are out of time, so I'm going to encourage you to come back and visit with us tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific time. That's 1 p.m. Eastern time. Until then, please give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.